planning to organise an event, and it's one that you could potentially take part in. Now, some years ago, I organised World Crossfire Day, and though I say so myself, it was something of a success. And so far as I know, no one had done anything quite like it before. What I did is I recruited people from all around the world, and I sent them scenarios that I wrote and got them to play those scenarios in order. We started with games being played in New Zealand, and then as the Earth turned, we went westward via Europe all the way to Western Canada, where the last game was played. They were all part of the same campaign, and each scenario had knock-on consequences for those that followed it. So, for instance, the very first game had a tiger broken down in a ditch in the middle of the table. Now, the British player didn't know that his objective was to stop the Germans rescuing that tiger. But the German player knew this, that was his objective, and he succeeded, which meant that in another game, played by other people in a different country entirely, that tiger took part. A tiger rolled onto that table because a different tiger, well, a different model of a tiger, had been rescued in another game. There were other consequences too. A map showing where all the enemy minefields was discovered in one game, so they were able to pass that information on to the players of a later game. Reinforcements either arrived or didn't arrive. Roads were either opened or not opened. Tank support was able to come or not. Spotters were able to get onto a hill, which meant that in another game somewhere else artillery support was possible. You can see how there are many possible consequences. Or bridges were captured or not captured, and so forth. Anyway, this next event is not going to be the same. This time what I want to do is get loads of people to play a game of Crossfire all at the same time. I think it'll happen during a 4-hour period. Of course, there'll be setting up time and so forth before that, but the actual game time will be 4 hours. So it will mean that some people will have to get up very early in the morning, and some people will have to stay up very late at night. But it'll be on a Saturday, shouldn't be too bad. Now, there will be 2 people, 1 commander for each side, and they will, if you like, be in bunkers 5 miles behind the enemy line, behind friendly lines. 5 miles from the front is what I meant to say. They will not have a war game table in front of them. They will simply have an overall map of the area, and they will have information that I have told them and that comes in from their players. So each player playing his particular scenario will be told roughly what to have on the table. I'm not going to specify where every last fence post goes, but it'll say something like there's a hill in the middle of the table and a town to the southwest, something like that. Then they will play their game. During a player's initiative, he can play the game. He can move his troops, he can roll dice and so forth. But while his clock is ticking, he can also decide, actually, I'm going to email my overall commander because maybe there's something I can ask of him or tell him that will be useful to my side. So the commanders will be getting emails from the players during the game. And perhaps one player will be screaming constantly all the way through the game, send me artillery support, send me air support, send me reinforcements and so forth. And perhaps that player will get them because he's the one who screams for them all the time. But then again, perhaps the player back in the bunker looking at the information in front of him will decide that, no, I don't believe this is actually the best use of our resources. I think actually I'm going to send my support to a different table. It's going to be up to him to decide. But maybe there's something he doesn't know. He doesn't know, for instance, that reinforcements can be sent along a certain road because he doesn't know that that road has now been opened because the player on that table hasn't told him. Will you spend your time emailing your commander, giving him possibly extremely useful information, or will you spend it absorbed in your game and playing the game? Well, we'll see. Some people, I'm sure, will just get completely sucked into the game and will forget to tell their commanders almost anything, and others will waste a lot of time telling the commander far more detail than he needs to know. So I think this could be fun, but if you want to take part, you will have to familiarise yourself with this particular set of rules. Crossfire. I've made another video about this already. Fortunately, they've just been reprinted, so they are available, and there are links in the description to places where you can get hold of these rules. You will, however, have to familiarise yourself with these rules before taking part. And I don't just mean read through them, I mean play a few games, because it'll take you a few games to really get your head around how these rules work. If you get about this quickly, I'll be able to give you lots of help. There is a Yahoo group, a forum for Crossfire, and I'm on that group, and so I and various other people on that forum, I'm sure will be happy to give you all sorts of helpful advice on how the game works. If you have familiarized yourself with the rules, then you can take part. You do not need fancy terrain. You do not need all the troops. This could, instead of a fancy bit of model making, you could just get a piece of card and write on it, first company, second platoon, third section, and rifles. And there you go. That's all you need to know. You don't have to have fancy models. You could just play it out using card, using bits of material, or card again for the terrain. You don't need to have fancy models, but you do need to be familiar with the rules, because you need to be able to get through a game in 4 hours, and you don't want to spend that time arguing over rules. You want to be head down and thinking about what's going on and getting on with it and having fun. So, if you're interested, email me. Go to my website. Again, there's a link in the description. Find my email there and email me. And if you're committed, you take the trouble to learn the rules, I'll be very glad to have you aboard.
Lindybeige!